earlier on, you were talking about the importance of marriage and the traditional family unit, having children, etc., women being wives and mothers, men being fathers and husbands.
Yeah.
Um, but as we know, in the West, this is something that a lot of men, particularly around my age, plus or minus around 15 years, have a lot of concerns and fears about,
Yeah.
realistically, right?
Oh
Whether
yeah.
that's, and I don't think anyone who's reasonable can claim that those things are invalid, right? So it's also like the institution of marriage has been subverted to a point where people who are even pro marriage and
Right.
pro family, who agree with all of that stuff, still have trepidation around it. Whether that's because of the way that some aspects are technological, some aspects are about the legal system and laws, some aspects are just like society and statistics, right? People are looking at those divorce statistics going like, man, like these are not great odds here. What men are bringing to the table, what women are bringing to the
Right.
table, everything's just kind of disintegrated to a degree where both from certainly from a male perspective, but I think even to a degree from a female perspective, the sort of I think marriage used to be it kind of pains me to say this because I am such a pro marriage person, right? And I come from a very stable family. My parents have been together, 40 plus years, but the the value of it is certainly on a surface level is a lot less. It's a lot less obvious, and the reward ratio, like being kind of mathematical compared to what it used to be even just a few decades ago. Um, it's not for someone who's a rational, illogical thinker, it's not hard to understand how someone would be like, like I'm not really sold on this idea. So
Right.
what are your thoughts on that, and how do you think perhaps it could be changed?
It's so funny because as you were saying that last phrase, it's like, why would I buy this cow when there's so much free milk
Yeah.
everywhere? Right. But that's a part of the problem. It's
Mm,
it's fornication,
mm,
promiscuity, the hookup culture. Because when you put sex in front of the relationship instead of putting a relationship in front of sex, then women have all the power.
mm,
And so, they like to say that we live in a patriarchy, but we don't. We live in a matriarchy. We live in a gynocentric world that's woman led. And so, when you speak in terms of what do we do, and we look at the fact that the divorce laws and the courts are stacked up against men,
mhm,
we just look at not even how the laws are set up, but people's perception. If there's a relationship that doesn't work out, it's always the man's fault. Always the
mhm,
man's fault. He didn't, and you know what it is? It's usually something very effeminate, something very weak from the woman's side. He just didn't give me the tingles anymore.
mhm,
I just didn't feel it for him anymore, right? All these various these made up things. Um and so they could just decide at any point, whenever they want, they could just pick up, leave, and not only that, take half your money and take
mhm,
your kids. And
mhm,
people will always side with the women. I'm not saying that there isn't abuse out there, but that word abuse has been abused. These
yes.
women talk about, oh yeah, he abused me. I've heard so many women, like, people that I know, and like I know this couple,
Mhm,
I know y'all,
mhm,
I've seen you for a long time, and then she comes out with, well, it's been an abusive relationship. I'm like, abusive? What are you talking about? There's no way that guy's abusing you. Well, it's emotional abuse. What do you mean
mm.
emotional abuse? Well, he's not talking to me. You can't divorce somebody for not talking to you and call it abuse. It's a lie. It's a made up. So in other words, marriage is it's become it's useless. It don't mean anything. And like I said before, with regard to getting the milk, when sex becomes first, then a lot of good men are gonna be like, well, why?
Yeah,
Why? I could just have sex
yeah,
and not have to deal with this woman who's gonna flip out on me and take all my money. And so when you ask me about what can be done about it, marriage can't be fixed. Marriage
oh
absolutely
yeah,
cannot be
okay,
fixed.
interesting.
Marriage can't be fixed. Gender identity, real traditional gender roles need to be restored. And that means men need to become men again. And that's why my campaign is make men strong again. And
Mhm,
women need to become women again. And a lot of this perversion is a result of feminism. And feminism started with, the whole idea that a woman who is in a marriage, who's a wife, is is a victim, right? She's suppressed by her suppressor, the husband. The whole narrative created this situation where women not only now, of course, I want to be able to leave my man, but I want to be a man now. And if you look at like all the movies and the media, like these women, they portray women, which is such a lie and it's so false, and it's such a shame because it once again denies women their true power. Why every superhero movie now is all women? Why is those women? Why it really it takes away a woman's real power when you say that she needs to be more like a man to be powerful. For women to be more like a man, they got to be for a woman to be powerful, for a woman to be a good woman, for a woman to be a respectable woman, she needs to be more like a man. It doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
But so my whole point here is that if we're going to restore marriage, men need to know their role, play their part. And it's not arbitrary. That's a part of the lukewarm gray world that we live in, where they're trying to make everybody one homogenized mass so we're more easily manipulated. Men are men. There's specific things men do and don't do. It's not up for, like, men don't wear dresses, right? It's just and because everybody's their own God and they have their own truth, you could say, oh, well, that's not true. No, it's true. Because if we're going to have any kind of order in our society, there need to be boundaries. There's certain things that as a man, you just don't do. You just don't say, right? You don't behave that way. You can, but then you need to be ostracized. You need to be kicked out because you're screwing up the order here, right? But instead, they're celebrated. Yes. The more perverted you are, the more celebrated you are.
I've got some bars. I've got some bars around this on the new album.
Yes, because you know it, man. So you got it. The more perverted you are, the more you are an inspiration. Where really, the more you are a child of Satan, and you're just creating more chaos. Yeah. And so women, I talk about men because men go first. Men need to go first. Men, if we stop tolerating women's shit, they will fall into their place. The only reason why women have half of what they have is because men has given it to them. There's not a single thing that a woman has. And it's just the way it is because we are stronger. As the stronger sex, we have a responsibility, and it's right for us to use that strength in a responsible way, but it has been subverted and used against us. So now that women have taken from men and manipulated men in such a way that now they're in control, and they really are. And so, but once men stop tolerating it, I think the first place we stop tolerating it is with promiscuity. We're manipulated. The reason why we're so easily manipulated is because we're having sex. When you're having sex, you're an addict. You're a drug addict. Just like a crack addict needs his dealer and will do anything. Where's my dealer? I need to get my hook. I need to get my fix. You got it now? You got it now? Or what do you want? What do you want me to do? It's the same way these men are with regard to sex. And it goes even when it is in terms of pornography. So we have to literally stop being addicted to orgasm. Got to stop busting nuts. If men are ever going to be dead again, we have to stop busting nuts because we're making ourselves weak. We're making ourselves addicted. We're making ourselves easily manipulated. So that's the first step. And it's crazy because people think that that religion it oppresses them because it says things like, oh, well, sex is pleasurable. So, but you shouldn't be having sex. Or jerking off is pleasurable. Well, you really shouldn't be jerking off. So, the politicians that want to manipulate us say, no, it's okay. It's good. Yeah, have as much promiscuous sex as you want. In fact, if you get pregnant, you can kill your baby. And pornography is great. So they do all this various stuff in order to make men weak. We think that there's something manly about being promiscuous or fornicating or jerking off to porn. That is nothing but slavery. So that's the first step. When men take back our sexual power, we take back our sexual powers. When we stop spilling our seed all over the place, then not only will we have retain that power and not giving it away to the technology and to the women, but semen retention is also an empowering tool for the way a man carries himself, the dignity that he has in himself, his self-control. That's where it really comes from, self-control. We have no freaking self-control. That's why everybody's obese and addicted and spends 90% of their time scrolling through things on the phone is because, all right, we're addicted to pleasure. We're effeminate. It begins with men. And if men fill their role, play their part, be real men, stop being effeminate, start start loving boundaries, start loving suffering, start loving sacrifice, letting yourself be a living sacrifice. See the power and authority, because you'll never be an authority unless you have an authority. And authority comes from above. Religion was created by men for men because we seek authority. Men operate in lines, in vertical lines, hierarchies. It's appropriate to deal with one another in hierarchies. This is how authority trickles down. Not like women, they work in circles. Women work in circles, and it's okay. That's their egalitarian. That's their nature. It's not a man's nature to be egalitarian. It's man's nature to have hierarchy. And so once we can do all that, and we understand the order, and we operate with authority, then women will have no choice but to do and to follow our lead. And you know what I think is a great way for women to be, and the way that men should, what we should expect from women is traditional conservative values. I don't want a slut. I don't want a woman with a large body count. I don't want a woman with a lot of debt. I don't want a woman with tattoos. I don't want a woman with a loud, big mouth. I don't want a woman that drinks more than I do. I don't want a woman who's all over social media showing her cheeks and her tits and makes herself into a billboard. I don't want a feminist. I want just a normal, sweet, kind, subservient, right? So we serve each other, but the woman is subservient, right? I serve my wife. Every dollar I make goes right to her. I serve her, but she's subservient, and she serves under me, and she takes care of the children and takes care of me in that way. Passive. I don't want an aggressive woman. Men are not. I don't know one man who's like, I am turned on by a strong, powerful CEO woman, entrepreneur. I don't care. I don't care how much money a woman makes. There's nothing attractive about that. There's nothing attractive about a woman that has a whole bunch of degrees. What does that prove? It just proves that you are a mediocre man, right? You're trying your best to fight and compete in the world of men, and you want to prove yourself. A woman that does that is constantly going to be trying to prove herself. I don't want a woman that has to prove herself that way to me, right? I want a woman that's a woman. And so that requires me, you, and men be real men.
I do not scam. Put some respect on my name.